Hey guys, in today's video I answer the question of how do I make my Sony A6000 into a GoPro? And I'm only partially kidding about that. I am checking out a fisheye lens. This one was sent to me by 7artisans. Let's check out how it comes packaged. So this is the box that the lens comes in, similar to almost every other 7artisans box. Is just black. There's a picture of the lens on the back, 7.5mm F2.8. Let's open this thing up. All right, so again, similar. You get a 7artisans little microfiber cloth pouch, an instruction manual, warranty card, some foam padding, and the lens itself, which is nicely packaged in foam. And here is the lens. You can see it is nice and compact, and I have to say lighter than I expected. So around the front, let's take this plastic, very cheap feeling, kind of flexible plastic lens cap off. You can see that giant convex front lens element, and it is kind of pink and purple and yellow. So looks very nice. It says fisheye, 7artisans, 7.5mm F2.8 on the front. And then around the back, just get a standard little mount. Look at how small that lens opening is on the back. Standard E-mount, again, no electronic connections. This is a manual only lens, but because it's a fisheye, it should not be very difficult to focus at all. So looking at the side, we have aperture at the bottom, so f2.8 to f22, no clicks, and I do not think you guys will be able to see aperture blades, maybe just slightly opening and closing in there. They're very compact. You could probably see it a little bit better on the back. And then the focus ring, nicely damped. It's actually kind of stiff for a focus ring from 7artisans. You can see that it turns about a third of a turn. So minimum focusing distances are labeled here. So you go from infinity to 1 meter to 0.12 of a meter. So that will get you pretty close to your subject, so be curious to test that out. The front of the lens is definitely a little bit more heavy than the back. Now this lens hood is built in. It's metal, you cannot remove it, and really it's designed to protect the front lens element, because if you drop this thing, you don't want to crack that glass. All metal construction, it feels pretty well built. You have a couple of adjustment screws around the focus rings, I'm sure to adjust stiffness or to disassemble if something goes wrong. So interested to mount this on the camera and see what sort of pictures we get with this thing. So let's do that next. Here is the 7.5mm fisheye lens mounted on my A6000. It looks like the size of a kit lens with a small lens hood on the front of it. So pretty compact. It is heavier than the kit lens, not as heavy as other 7artisans lenses that I've tried. That front piece of glass is pretty large though, so it does make the camera a little bit more front heavy, but it's not something that's going to hinder you from carrying this package around and taking it with you if you're traveling. So pretty compact, and I think it matches the body quite nicely. So let's take a look at some sample photos and maybe a few videos using this lens on my A6500. Here we go. So that is it for the sample photos and videos, and I have to say this is a very easy lens to use. Now, I've tested 2 other fisheye lenses on this channel many months ago. The first one was a 6.5mm circular fisheye. Did not give you a full picture coverage on the APS-C sensor. It just made a circle image of whatever you were shooting. And I also did review an 8mm f3.5, so slightly slower fisheye lens, which was quite large. That was really the only thing that I didn't like about it very much. It performed okay. This 7.5mm fisheye is the easiest one I've ever used, and it is also the smallest. So if you're looking for something that's compact and easy to use, check this one out for sure. Now let's talk about focus. With a fisheye lens, I almost didn't focus it at all. If you just leave it on infinity focus, it acts kind of like a GoPro. Everything is in focus, so you can move it around, you can take video. The only point in which you really need to worry about focus is if you're trying to capture something up close, very close to this front lens element. Now, in order for you to take a portrait, for example, you have to get maybe this close to your subject, so we're talking inches. It's a little bit awkward, but you can do it. The minimum focusing distance of this lens is about 3 inches, so you can get very close if you wanted to. And that's really the only point to having a focus ring at all on this thing, is just to make sure that whatever's very close remains sharp. Now, if you're just using this lens for landscape photography or taking cityscapes, for example, all the way to the right, infinity focus, and shoot away. You really don't have to worry about messing with it. Overall performance of this lens was good. The sharpness is there. It's not the sharpest lens probably in your collection of lenses, but it is maybe perhaps the most unique because it gives you a certain perspective that other lenses really can't provide. It does make rooms look much bigger than they are, so you could use this for real estate photography, but you probably want just a wide angle lens with no distortion, because you do get quite a bit of that fishbowl effect with a fisheye lens. I suppose you could use this lens for astrophotography, and it would do decently well at that. F2.8 is decent at night, but it's probably not going to be as sharp as some other options. Sigma 16, Rokinon 12 are on the top of my mind. The colors with this lens are great and no issues with flaring. I don't know if it's the lens hood or the coatings on the front lens element, but no issues that I noticed there. There's really very little to complain about this thing. It's compact, easy to use, seems to be built well. Focus ring is nice and smooth, no crunchiness, no missing focus. I would normally talk about the bokeh that the lens produces, but there's not a whole lot with a wide fisheye lens. When you do focus on something that is very close to the lens, the background does disappear into a semi-creamy visual. But I would discourage you from using this lens for portrait work because your subject may not be happy with you. My wife said that it made her nose look big. So to summarize, this is a good lens. It's not going to win any sharpness awards. It's not going to blow you away with background bokeh, but it does provide a unique perspective. It's something that's a little bit more creative. It does force you as the photographer to think a little bit more about what you're photographing and where you're standing in relation to your subject. So for that reason, it is a cool addition to any collection. It's also relatively inexpensive. I think this is about $129 right now on Amazon. I'll post a link down below for those who are interested. So definitely check it out if you are in the market. Sony does not make a fisheye lens or a Sony branded fisheye as far as I know. I know that there is a fisheye adapter for the Sony 16mm, but that really doesn't give you the same sort of effect because this is much wider at 7.5. Let me know what you guys think of the shots that came out of this lens. As always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support. Stay tuned for more. I just bought another lens today and it is a Zeiss. It's probably coming up in my next video, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.